Now, guys, let's have a look at Still I Rise, a poem that a student in class requested I do analysis of. It's a lovely poem and it's really easy to prepare, by Maya Angelou, the American poet Maya Angelou, whose poetry is generally interested in the twin themes of justice and injustice. And this poem is certainly about justice and injustice. She's often interested in power, the idea of power, and tied to those things, her poetry often deals with prejudice and the impact of prejudice on individuals and on communities. And this is a poem which is about her experience and the experience of her people, her community. She's an African American woman. She's writing in the 20th century, and she's describing the effects of racism on her and on her people in this poem. It is a poem which is notable for a couple of stylistic features which are obvious. So first one is called repetition. Sorry. Repetition, okay. And you'll see in the poem, if we include the title, we will include the title, right? Let's count it. I rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. Sorry, it says, sorry there, yeah. I'll rise, I 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 rise. So you see that phrase in one form or another. Once, twice, I'm after missing it somewhere there. No. 3 times, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you include the title, 11 times. So the repetition creates emphasis. It stresses or underlines or emphasizes or shows the message of the poem. So while the poem is personal, I mean, she does say I 11 times in those repeated lines or examples, and she does say my a lot. While the poem is personal, it is really more of a polemical poem. In other words, it has a kind of political or social message. It's a poem about a person's determination, and then, to expand it out, a community's determination not to be defeated by injustice, not to be worn down by bigotry, not to be, not to accept that they have no hope. It's a poem designed to inspire hope. It is a poem which is inspirational. So as I said, repetition is the first thing that I think I would pay attention to in terms of style. The second thing are these lines. I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. That's the first line besides I rise, I'd learn. Then I laugh like I've got gold mines in digging in my own backyard. Lovely. Really like that. I'm going to explain why in a second. You learn that. Then I dance like I've got diamonds in my thighs, at the meeting of my thighs. So I would learn those 3 lines. You know, I'm sure when you look at all 3 that you've got the use of simile, very, very, very inventive use of simile. The simile not only creates imagery, oil wells, diamonds, and gold mines, but it's got symbolism. Oil wells make you rich. If you own a diamond mine or a gold mine, it makes you rich. Wealth material wealth, money, makes you powerful. So this writer is saying, I am powerful. I am strong. You will not defeat me. Now, she's not talking about money. She's using imagery that is easy to understand. Wealth, material wealth, we all understand that if you've got loads of money, then you have power. We get that. And she's using that to help us understand that she feels that she has the strength to cope with the prejudice that she's encountered and that she will eventually overcome it. And she's speaking not just on behalf of herself, but on behalf of her community. The other part of the poem that I really like in terms of style is this line here, or these lines here. She says, I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. And that's the fourth line that I would definitely consider learning off by heart, or part of the poem I would learn as a quote, because, excuse me, it's a brilliant example of metaphor. If we took that literally, she's saying, I am an ocean. But clearly, she's not an ocean. And clearly, she's using the image of a vast ocean with its, immeasurable, amount of water, with the power that it holds, with its depth and its enormous reserves to symbolize her strength. She's saying to the bigot, you, I'm not going to be defeated by you. I am strong. I have reserves. I have power. And she's talking not only in a personal capacity, but also on behalf of her people. So that's why the poem is so strident in its message. Strident means powerful and strong. Well, let's read the poem. There's no meter here, but there is rhyming. You'll see the rhyming all the way through. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Another little simile there. Wouldn't necessarily learn it. I love the I love the noun adjective combinations there. This trodding her in dirt is clearly a metaphor. So, very dramatic opening. So, these are images of injustice. She asks, does my sassiness upset you? So, her sense of strength. Lovely use of colloquial language there. She writes in her own voice. Colloquial language is language which is like, informal language, which is used almost in a way like slang when you're being comfortable speaking in your own voice. And she's happy to do that in the poetry. She doesn't feel she needs to write in a way that will be accepted by others. She's happy with who she is, so she writes the way she speaks. She asks, why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room, just like moons and like suns. Again, loads of little similes. I wouldn't learn them. The ones I marked are the best ones. With the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, I'll rise, still I'll rise. So you will not defeat me. As soon as as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, as soon as the moon is in the sky, as soon as the tides will go in and out, I will rise. That sense of certainty. And then, now you notice there were questions there and there. These are the ones I really like here, and this is the other part of the poem I would consider if I was you, maybe learning. Do you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes. Now, those are questions, but they're what we call, I wonder, do you know, they are rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are questions that are asked not because you need an answer, you already know the answer, but because you're trying to focus the reader's mind on a particular topic. When she says, do you want to see me broken? She knows the answer already. Yes, they do. The bigots, whoever they're bigoted against, wants to see that person broken. Do you want me to have a bowed head and lowered eyes? If your head is bowed and your eyes are lowered, it means you're afraid, and that means you're defeated. She knows they want to defeat her. She knows they want her people to give up, but she says no. She will not go around with her shoulders falling down like teardrops. She will not be weakened by her cries. She asks, does my haughtiness, again, her confidence, being a confident black person is something that, they don't like, these bigots. Don't you take it awful hard. Again, there's a good example of colloquial language. Again, another example here. Because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. And then this wonderful, wonderful second half of the poem. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. Again, images of violence. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. The momentum of the poem building with the repetition. The rhetorical questions again. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my ties? Outstanding imagery there. And then the final section where the repetition really gathers pace. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into daybreak that's wonderfully clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. And there she is referencing slavery, the source of all this suffering and all this prejudice. But that was the worst imaginable thing that a human being can do to another, and they have survived. And then this lovely triad at the end. A triad is a line or a sequence of words which is repeated 3 times to create a striking emphasis. I rise, I rise, I rise. It is very reminiscent of the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. It is filled with striking imagery. It recognizes the cruelty of other people, but it also is a celebration of the resilience of human beings. It's a great poem, Still I Rise by Maya Angelou.